Well, hello. My name is OJ Aldrich, and we are here today with Children of the Nation, specifically in Malawi, and part of our global conversations with some of our partners here at Summit. And we've got two of my good friends, Cheryl and Pike, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And starting with Cheryl, kind of tell us a little bit about your role at Children of the Nations, and we'll go from there.
Hi, good to see you, OJ. So my name is Cheryl Cuthbertson, and I am the Director of Sustainability and Engagement for Children of the Nations International. So I am based in our Silverdale headquarters office, and part of my role is to make sure that we have sustainable infrastructure in all 5 of our countries. So that includes clean water, renewable energy, microfinance programs, and strong agriculture programs. And I'm also responsible for the sustainability of the programs in our countries to make sure that we have the correct strategies in place that allow our countries to operate in more independence. So yeah, just a small job, but yeah, that's what I do.
Right. I mean, no big deal. Just something, you just kind of knock it all out in a day.
But I love it. It's great. Yeah, it's great work.
Muli Blanji Pike.
Ndili bwino kaya inu OJ. I am very well, thank you, OJ. My name is Pike Kaminyore. Don't worry about the surname. It's difficult, I know. It's difficult for people here. I am the Village Partnership Program Coordinator and the Venture Coordinator. My role as a Village Partnership Program Coordinator involves support and the implementation of support or facilitation and implementation of activities from 4 care areas, or rather the holistic care that we offer to our children in the Village Partnership Program and the homes and UNVP, of course. But my role is specifically for the Village Partnership Program. So I make sure that me and my staff bring the needs that our children have in the communities, so that our departments, which are social care, physical care, spiritual care, and education, will help meet or provide for our children. So basically, I am the link between the departments, which is the holistic care areas, and the children in the Village Partnership Program. And my role as a venture is to prepare and host venture teams, so venture groups mostly from the US that come in Malawi here during your summer, which is our winter mostly. So I prepare and help host when they're here.
So that's the formal part. Now I get to brag on them. Cheryl and Pike are 2 of my favorite people. And it is a bit of an off year. We had a chance to talk earlier. Typically in the summer, we're together for a couple of weeks in Malawi, and specifically where Pike is sitting right now. And Magwai, right here by where a lot of our kids are sponsored. Summit has had a long relationship with Children of the Nations. We've sent teams, but way more than that. We've just been partners in ministry for a long time now. Many of you that are watching this are probably watching it because you sponsor a child there. I know mine is named Simeon, and he is a sweet boy. And we've gotten a lot of updates this year, which has been really good. Thank you guys for being so on that in the midst of a really tough year, doing all that. I know he's part of our family, our good friend Doris, who lived with us for a while, and many of you know, you got a chance to meet her at Summit. And so we just want to have a little conversation and catch up on what's happening. And Cheryl has been leading the charge for the last few years and has been just incredible to work with, and has such a great vision, and has taught me a lot about Starbucks culture also. Every time. So I've got a couple of questions to ask you. So for those at Summit who may not be familiar with Children of the Nations, or maybe needs a little refresher, could you briefly share a bit about the organization as a whole and what you're doing?
Sure, I can start, and then maybe Pike can talk a little bit about Malawi. So we are celebrating 25 years this year, which is a big deal for us. So 25 years ago, Chris and Debbie went into Sierra Leone, and we had a few children there that we were looking at because of the outcome of the Civil War. Little did we know that 25 years later, we're now in 5 different countries. We're in Uganda, Malawi, and Sierra Leone. We're also in Dominican Dominican, and Haiti, and serving close to 5,000 children every year. And the intent of Children of the Nations is to really serve the communication or the population of kids that that are double orphan, that are in the most strenuous situations, and to not just come alongside and provide aid for those children for emergency relief, which we do, but then to help them become the young men and women that are going to transform their country and transform their nation. And probably Malawi is the place where we have the greatest history of that, because we have the most graduates in Malawi. And we're starting to see, after 25 years, the impact of the work that COTN has been doing for 25 years. We're seeing young people become doctors and lawyers, and we're seeing them become business owners. And it's just amazing to see what God has been doing with COTN for 25 years. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what we do. We provide, as Pike said, 4 areas of holistic care for every child: social care, physical care, spiritual care, and then education. So every young person, like your sponsored child in our program, receive that holistic care approach as long as they're in the program. And we have 2 different types of programs, and I'll let Pike talk about the Village Partnership. One is our homes program, which is really small. And these are children, it's a very small percentage, who we absolutely, not only are they double orphan, but we just can't find a relative or someone who will care for them in their local setting. And so very small percentage of our kids are in the homes program in each of our countries. And actually, we only have 3 countries, and that's in Sub-Saharan Africa, that have that program. In Dominican and Haiti, we have no homes programs at all. But most of our children are in what we call a Village Partnership program. And that means that these are young people that we've identified that need support, but they live in their village with either a parent or a grandparent or a neighbor, someone who's taking care of them. And we come alongside them to help that family take care of that child and raise that child. And we pay for school fees and things like that. So that's the program that Pike runs in Malawi. So I'm gonna let him take it from there and talk maybe a little bit about Village Partnership and what that looks like in Malawi.
Okay, thank you so much, Cheryl. So what Cheryl is saying is we are not going into the village and saying, hey, here we are, what are your problems? Let us sort them. But we're saying, hey, there is an orphan in your home. There is a vulnerable child in your home. How can we work together with you and support this child? So that's what we're saying. So part of the things that Village Partnership does is making sure that the parent or the guardian understands that it is his sole responsibility to take care or to support that child. But we understand that not every other parent, not every other guardian will manage some of the most important things in the growth as the child grows. So that's why our care is holistic, and we're making sure. To us, we believe that if we provide the holistic care like we have highlighted earlier, we are bound to grow up a child who will be stable and who will be responsible enough. Because we're not just saying, okay, hey, let's just help you with education. Let's support your education. We're not saying that. We're saying even a teacher would need to know the gospel. Even a teacher would want a teacher to be mentally stable. We don't want a teacher to come in class dressed in shabby clothes, but he's a good teacher. We want someone who is balanced. So as we go into the villages, we're looking for orphans, mostly orphans. Double orphans are a priority, but we know some are single orphans, and some, they might have parents, but they are very poor, and the parents can't just support the children. So those are the children that we will target. And we have 3 centers in Malawi. We have 1,200 children around there, and we have 3 centers, the Village Partnership Program centers. The oldest one is Msiliza, which is close to 15 or so, 20 probably. years old. Then we have Mugwai, which is 11 years old now, and Chirombo, which is 11 years old as well. So the children that we have in the centers, these centers, just like we have them in the homes, we are bringing them all the holistic care, the physical care, the education, spiritual, and social. So we have activities amongst the education that we will provide to the children. So for education, for example, just give you a quick example. Our schools help provide support to the children that we have. So we have Big John's Primary School that is just in Mugwai Village. We have ICA, International Christian Academy, our own school. So children will compete to come to our school here. But because we know we have others that attend other schools that will support while they're in their schools, so then they can also attain the much needed qualifications in their educations. Just like we have spiritual care support and social care support. So social care, quickly talking about that, is the emotional and mental health of a child. And briefly I can say like that, because we're talking about children that have lost parents maybe at a young age, and probably others abused while they were young, and reaching out to them mentally and emotionally, I think helps them very much to forget about what they have experienced before, and also at least learn from the things that they have gone through in order for them to be to grow and become more independent, emotionally independent, and mature as they grow. So that's what happens in the village partnership program in our villages.
I love that, and I think for most of the folks at Summit, that are watching this, and the children that you're sponsoring are majority in the Village Partnership Program. They are at home, they live with a parent or a grandparent, a cousin, and so you come alongside of them and give them some assistance, but you're not replacing those things. And a lot of them are in Mugwai, which is just steps away from where Pike is sitting now, the back door. And I can't remember. Do you know off the top of your head? At one point, Davey had told us some incredible number of kids that were sponsored through people from Summit, but I think in the village of Mugwai, it was quite a few of the kids that are there.
Come again, so I didn't hear you very well on that one.
You know about how many kids are sponsored by Summit folks in Mugwai there, right? No,
not the number actually, but I can say that over 70% of children in Mugwai are sponsored by Summit team members.
That was the number, yeah. It was just something that was just staggering over the years. It just, you guys have added up. I mean, and thanks to those of you.
I still remember because I was, before I became a village partnership program coordinator, I was a Mugwai facilitator for a long time. And I know as we were growing sponsorship in the village, we had a lot of Summit team that came and pretty much concentrated, more or less adopted Mugwai village. So they sponsored a lot of them. I saw sponsorship grow in Mugwai where I was a facilitator there. So around 70% of children there are sponsored by Summit team members.
Yeah, I love that. And when you go and visit and you see folks, they always ask about their sponsor, right? You have a relationship with them,
yes,
which is beautiful.
Yes.
And the thing that struck me so much that, it still does, is that they pray for us. It's not just one-sided, it's a relationship. And I truly believe that the way we've made it through a lot of our days here at Summit is because there are friends of ours in Malawi that pray without ceasing for us. And it's incredible. Yeah. To give you a note too, because you were saying raising kids to transform nations. I love that we're seeing that, right? Like everything from last summer when we went, we got to see a coffee house that Cheryl got us a special VIP access to with David and your team, and opened, a legit nice coffee house that was going all the way to Francisco, who's in the magazine this month, the newsletter that just came out last week, who's working for you and leading the spiritual care for our kids that are there. It's just so my phone was blowing up last Thursday, I think it was, when it hit everybody's mailboxes. Like, did you see Francisco? To Mpato, to Gift, who's opened a shop in the village and is selling food. The wide spectrum of ways that you're meeting kids and providing ways for them to have this holistic care in their life. It's been really special. So next question is sort of, what does ministry look like? You touched on a little bit of in a normal season for you in Malawi. And then we'll talk a little bit about what it's been looking like in this season with COVID.
Yeah, things, well, this is a weird year. I mean, very, we thank God we are still here and able to talk to you guys. But I think in a normal year, I think there are a lot of things that happen here. We have our children attending our schools, the rest 3 times in a year. We have remedial classes happening for our children, for our children that are struggling in school. We have feeding programs taking place or happening, school feeding programs or normal feeding programs in Msiliza, at least to aid the nutrition of our children in our village partnership program. Also, we have VV facilitators going to the villages and helping with the visiting our children, because that's one of the things that's how we will know the welfare of our children in the village, and how we can help them, how we can support them well. And that's where we know the struggles, if our children have struggles and if they need some emotional care or emotional support or stuff like that. We have Devi going to the village to do the sponsorship letters, sponsorship updates for our children, for our to update sponsors out there. We have monthly community clinics in our villages, in the villages, just to make sure we're checking on our children. Those that we are not able to go to a clinic, we can reach them out there. We have our clinic opening at least 8 hours a day in a normal day. We have our children at least being able to do sports, which they can't do now anyway. Sports, at least practice during a month, and at least 1 game away with other villages or with other center. We have with the schools taking place, we have, like I said, we have the nutritional elements. So the children come to school, they learn, but they also get a porridge which helps with the nutrition. But with COVID, I think we have had problems with that as well, because they couldn't come to school. We have weekly attendance of our girls' power clubs in our villages, where girls will come weekly to to the center, and they will have an hour of lessons with our staff. Those are some of the things that will happen when things are just normal. So there are a lot of things that will happen. We have every other staff member coming to work in a normal day. So those are some of the things that I can, on top of my head, say right away now that they'll be happening. They are normally happening when things are just fine.
Yeah. So specifically now, we're October 2020, depending on when you're watching or listening to this. What is it looking like right now for you guys? Are schools back in sessions? What are masks like? I mean, I think that's a question a lot of us have, because we're pretty much focused on us, and oftentimes, and so curious what's happening elsewhere.
I know. Yeah. We fortunately, like I said earlier on, we have had the cases going down. We thank God, and there was it was very scary at some point when we first had the first case in Malawi. Then we had, at some point, we had the cases growing from maybe around 50 to 150. It was very scary for a lot of people, including me. I was so scared. And when the government had talked about the lockdown, which we just heard on TV and stuff like that, I mean, it was so scaring. I mean, but we thank God that that was just the high point of the cases. But I think the cases have gone drastically down, which we thank God for. And the government decided to reopen schools. In fact, as I'm speaking now, The exam classes are back to school already. They opened last month, somewhere around 24th of September. No, the 15th of September, yeah. And all other classes will be opening on Monday, which is the 12th, I think. Yeah, so all other classes will be opening. So now we have full students at ICA, at Big John's, and the all government schools. Of course, with the lots of precautionary measures so that we are reducing the, if any, there could be any transmission between the one, if just in case others have it. But we are not hoping for the worst. We are sure about being able to put all preventive measures and keep our children safe. Yeah, so that's what will happening, and we are opening partly some of the activities because we are more or less like on mini lockdown ourselves. We could come to work in tens. So, for example, like VVB officers will just come to work 3 days in a week, so that we are not all of us full in the office. That's how we. But I think we are starting to come back on the 12th on Monday because schools are opening and some of the things have been. At least we are able to. Government is opening schools, and that will require us at least coming to work. And we are opening partly. We'll start our morning devotions as well from the 12th because we stopped that as well. Yeah, so I think we are getting back there. We are getting back there, and we thank God for that.
That's great.
I want to add to OJ in that another group that was impacted by this was our university vocational students
Yes.
and our business connection students. So universities closed down, and so our students had to take a little hiatus and couldn't participate. So that was really a struggle for some of them to have their studies interrupted. And then in our business connections program, as you know, you've been here to visit, a lot of our kids are doing business in the market. So they're selling peanut butter, or they're, selling maize or whatever. And in that process, when you hear the government say shut down, it's not like here where we can all go on Zoom and start working from home. A lot of our students that were running small businesses and our families, the fear is, well, if I can't go to the market, then that cuts off my business supply as well. So from the international perspective, one of the things that we did on a temporary basis for all of our countries is we sent extra food into countries for those feeding programs. Just like here in the US, when kids who are on free and reduced lunch don't go to school every day, somebody that they're depending on that meal. So we did have a little bit of a stressful period where we had to make sure, and Pike and his team and in all of our countries made sure that all of our kids or families got extra bags of food delivered to their house by our coordinators. And we also had teachers that would go and maybe teach small groups of kids to prep them for their exams, wearing masks and socially distance. And we tried as much as possible to send thousands of masks into every country so that our kids would be protected. And it was temporary. So sometimes we have to do those temporary aid measures, but we're just so glad that, as Pike said earlier, none of our kids have been infected, and we have had no loss of life, which is amazing in any of our countries. So that's really a blessing from God.
And since you have a little,
Yes.
you're kind of talking the macro part, like what is it looking like today kind of across COTN and countries? Is everyone sort of moving this direction, kind of back to school and back into things?
Yeah, slowly. I think the Dominican Republic is the one area where, and you guys go there as well with us, where we have more cases than in our sub-Saharan African countries. I think Uganda, Sierra Leone, and Malawi are all starting to go back to school in the next month and do it, of course, with social distancing and very carefully. I know the kids can't wait to get back, and their parents probably can't wait for them to get back either.
They can.
But sometimes Haiti has been open but cautious, and in the DR they're still being very cautious because we've had more cases in the Dominican than anywhere else. But again, across all of our countries, we have not had any severe COVID incidents or any loss of life due to that. So we thank God for that. But all of our countries received additional aid in probably around June, July timeframe to help them get through this process. So it is a little bit of a setback for everyone with school, but yeah, overall we're doing fine.
Yeah, I think, like Cheryl says, we were able to still support our children, knowing that despite the challenges that we have, but at least they are our children. If we run away, completely stay at home, we will not find them there, or they'll, I mean, they'll completely be doing different things. So we ensure that the support is done. So for example, education, we did what we call open distance learning. For students at ICA and the students at Big John's. Even as a matter of fact, Big John's also supported the rest of the children in other centers who go to government schools, because government schools were not doing anything. So we, Big John's would do schoolwork, and the facilitators, VV facilitators would bring them to our children in the centers, just to make sure they are not completely doing something else. At least they are at least twice a week they are doing something related to education, just to make sure we are not losing them in terms of education. And we ensure that our presence in the village is still there. We are not gone forever, because Sultan has been in the village for some time, and we have communities trusting us very much because of the relationship that we have established in the villages. And we just want to ensure that there is still that relationship in the village, and our visits in the village, of course, with preventive measures. Every time we went there, at least a staff has a mask, has a hand sanitizer, and when he or she is meeting a few children, the children are putting on masks, and they have washed their hands, and there is a social distance between us, just making sure that there are no cases that we can bring to them, because we come from town and they are in the villages. They are more safer in the villages than we are in town, because most of us come from town. So at least we made sure some of the things still happen, though in a different way, but it still happen, supporting our children.
That's great. One, and Cheryl, I think you started to answer this question really well too. It's just, and Pike, you've alluded to it a number of times. Just how have you seen God be faithful to you in this season, or maybe even surprising? Like, as you mentioned, just the lack of cases and deaths, and that is just such a big one. But like, what are some other ways you guys have seen God in this season?
Yeah, like you say, the cases dropping down. Like,
okay.
No, go ahead, Cheryl. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Pike. You're fine, Pike.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, like I said, the cases grow. I mean, coming down like they have, we didn't expect. The media didn't help, because what we had heard earlier was Africa will suffer a lot with the coronavirus, and we thought it was so scary. It was so scary at first, but I think God has been very merciful. I mean, we haven't had the cases like that could scare us that much, and the cases are going down now, like I said. And one other thing I think we could be very thankful to God for is, like I had earlier on, is that we have still maintained the relationships with our children. At least we are able to go there and be with our children in our villages. But also, we thank our international office and all the partners for being supportive during this time. I can't hide to you that the staff members were worried. We are worried because of what we could see on TV, what we heard on the radios about how that is in your country, and we felt that if you guys suffer that much, it will transfer to us. We'll lose jobs, and the children will not be able to reach out to children. But that hasn't happened. So we are so thankful to you guys. So thankful to God for at least for keeping you alive, for keeping yourself, and being able to continue to support certain Malawi. And yeah, so those are some of the things that we are very thankful to God for, apart from the cases going down in Malawi.
And I think we have the thing that happened immediately, we had the same fear. It was really interesting as we were ramping up into this in March and April here in the United
Yeah.
States, getting
Mhm.
our fear. We were panicked over what might happen, especially in Africa, because we were hearing the
Yeah.
same news.
Mhm.
But the interesting thing is we were praying so hard for our brothers and sisters in Malawi and Sierra Leone, Uganda, and around the world. And they were praying for us. I can't tell you how many kids, young
Yeah.
people were texting me saying, Auntie, how are you? Are you okay? We are so worried about you. What is this shelter in thing? And every Wednesday for all COTN countries, every staff stops and prays every Wednesday morning. You've been there, OJ, when we've had
Yeah.
staff devotions. Well, we don't do that just when teams are there. They're praying every morning, but on Wednesday, in Malawi, they fast and pray all day long. And so we know that some of that fasting and praying that was going on and our praying here was
Mhm.
answering prayers, not only in our countries, but here in the United States.
Yeah.
We have, our staff here has been safe and protected. And we know it's the prayers of folks like Pike and our staff there and our Kamalatu women. We know they're praying for us. And so
Yeah.
that has been a blessing. And we also have been keeping our eye open now for secondary effects of COVID. And some of those secondary effects are things like, have kids been able to get immunizations while they were gone? You know, it is about kids being
Yeah.
healthy and having nutrition. So it's not just did they get the virus or not, but
Mhm.
how healthy are our kids? Are they safe? We worry about our girls when they have too much time on their hands in the village and they're exposed to all kinds of things. And so
Yeah.
we've been
You're
praying
right.
not
You're
just
right.
for COVID, but just the secondary effects of COVID
Effects
that
of
we
COVID.
know
You're
our
right.
kids
Mhm.
could be impacted by. And we've seen very little effect. I think the only thing that we've seen in some of our Caribbean countries is some families had to maybe take a temporary move in order to go earn money somewhere, right? I mean, you have to earn money, and earning money is not like, again, here where we're on Zoom. You have to go where the money is. And so
Mhm.
you see a little bit of movement, but other than that, we're still praying, and we really need Summit family to keep praying for us, because
Yeah.
there are those secondary effects that we have to be careful of as well.
Yeah, you're right. We literally during our major fasting days of fasting and prayer, we literally mentioned you guys' names in praying for you. So because we knew how that would affect us, and we are so thankful to God. We are so happy that well, at least I know there might be others that have been directly or indirectly affected by that, but it hasn't. Like I say, Summit sponsors a lot of children in Mugwai or in Soten. You support us in different ways, but the sponsorship hasn't stopped as far as I'm concerned. Maybe Cheryl will tell me otherwise, but
No.
the sponsorship hasn't. And you guys like you, OJ, or Nathan, and several other Summit team members who sponsor our children, and they continue to sponsor our children amidst the coronavirus. We have seen on TV that others lost their jobs and stuff like that. But here we are. We have Davey has been saying these other days that we have an additional sponsor and stuff like that, which we are very thankful to God for. So we can be very thankful. God has surprised us in different ways, while we thought otherwise when Corona started, maybe the first case in Malawi. So we are very thankful for that.
Yeah, I think we've all been pleasantly surprised and overwhelmed by people's generosity. I mean, just everywhere. It's just been unbelievable. Like when we see God just showing up in the faithfulness of people, and I'm so glad that you've experienced that. And like you said, this is a relationship, right?
Yeah.
People from Malawi, I gotten probably more messages from people in Malawi worried about us than even locally at times because of that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
pay attention, and we were paying attention to the election, right? You guys had a big election year this year, and so we were very actively praying in the midst of that too. And
And
thank
thank
you
you
for
for your
sharing those
prayers.
kind of the continuing prayer requests that you have there. I think that gives us some handles on place where we continue to pray. Were there any other specific
Mhm.
areas that we can be praying for?
Maybe before we go there, sorry, maybe time is running out, but I can't go without mentioning the fact that you guys not coming this year has affected, or maybe several other teams not coming this year have affected us in different ways. The special needs, the special needs team that comes every year to Malawi, that is one of the ways that us as the officers will check on the status of our special needs children, how we can encourage them, and so on and so forth. So you're not coming this year. I know it's beyond you, but that has affected us. And the therapy that you give with the VBS that you conduct goes a long way to those children. So we are thinking this was another year that we would check on them, but not that we don't check on them when you guys are here, but that is a very different way of checking them. The fun part of it as well helps very much with our children, some of who are mentally at risk disturbed. So yeah, we want you to pray. We want you to pray for us. In fact, we want you to thank God for us for the cases that we have in Malawi. We hope the cases continue to go down and the things can open up, because we still have government restrictions around. So I know others will like one of the major restrictions that I think is restricting a lot is the 100 people gathering. So you cannot gather above 100. So that also affects schools, but we can understand the intentions of it or behind it. But we just pray that the cases go down. And our students are starting school now, and we know the uncertainties surrounding them going back to school, whether they will be safe or they will not be safe. But as a school as Sorten, I think we have tried as much as we can to prepare our schools. So every preventive measures in place, hand washing, teachers, hand sanitizers, children's masks, social distancing. So for social distancing, we have made sure that students have been divided in terms of they are not gathering 40 in each class, but at least 20, and they'll be changing time. So if 100 come in the morning, others can come in the afternoon. Those are some of the things that education have, because we have the same space, at least for Big Johns. For ICA, we have seen how we can do it in terms of finding space on campus, because we have borders there as well. And also, we just pray that for protection, of course, but we may always come in contact with this virus. So we pray for divine immunity. We pray that even when we come in contact with a virus, but we are still safe. We are not getting sick. We are not transmitting that to others. So we want you to remember us in prayers in that way, OJ, and the rest of Summit team, Summit Church.
I love that divine immunity, Pike. I'm going to start praying that one, because we need that here too. we ask for you to pray, continue to pray for that for us here in the U.S. for divine immunity. I love that.
Yeah.
I would add, OJ, just as we're wrapping up, the venture teams. We this year, COTN sent venture teams in January, February, and then we sent no venture teams the rest of the year. And that was a huge impact, not just to COTN International, but to each of our countries. Because remember, we do send special needs teams. We send child check teams, the BIS medical team that goes to Malawi every year to check on our children. They bring supplies, they bring medicine. None of that happened this year. We had to cancel all of our teams in the Dominican that do surgery. So all of our surgical teams were canceled, which means a lot of our kids who need surgery did not get it this year. And so on and so on. And so it's those critical teams that we really missed, our countries really missed this year, and will probably miss for the first half of next year. So our prayer is for divine immunity, that we will be able to send teams back into our countries, not just, you know, all teams, but the critical need teams, that we can get them back into country next year. That would be a blessing for us. And I would just ask for continued prayer for COT and International, that we continue to thrive, and so that we can support Pike and all of our countries in continuing to do the amazing work that they're doing. So that's where we need prayer.
Absolutely. Well, Pike. Good.
Yes. Do you want me? Are we done on time?
We are.
I just wanted to. I just wanted to add one thing on Cheryl.
Okay.
What I wanted to say is, so the teachers team that the summit will help us. Will send. I know you didn't send last time, I think, but what those are. That is one of the major trainings that the SOT in Malawi will plan in a year. I know we have monthly trainings with face-to-face monthly trainings with teachers that education will organize, but that is kind of major trainings that you guys bring to us, which we haven't done, and we're praying that next year. I'm banking on next year.
I like it. Let's bank on it.
We can be able to. Just like the medical team, the child checkups that we do with the medical team, the buys, I know you know the buys that the team that they will come with, that's one of the major child checkups that we do for our children, and which is slightly difficult for us to organize on ourselves because it involves a lot of things. It would involve hiring doctors and nurses and paying a lot of money to them here. But those guys come here and help us each year for us to get a progress on a child with a child checkup. So you guys not coming has affected us, but we are still thankful to God for still managing at least with activities that we do for our children, and with no cases in our communities, no deaths. We can never thank God enough. We really thank God for that.
Well, thanks for catching us up and for inviting us to pray. We will be continuing to do that, and we will look forward to praying for divine immunity so that we can come visit sooner than later for sure. Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks, Pike.
Thanks,
Thank you so much, OJ.
Thanks, Pike. Miss you.
Say hi. Miss you too, guys. Say hi to friends and family back there.